Let me tell you a story about Japan. Hello, and thank you for visiting my channel and tuning in. This is the Cultured Gaijin Japan Storyteller channel, bringing you in-depth discussions about everything Japan from a cultural and historical perspective. For my first episode, I thought I would talk about an important Japanese word. It lies at the very base of Japanese culture. It is the foundational and fundamental reason why Japan operates the way it does and why it can't change. It is not really a concept, but a universal reality that every Japanese person subconsciously carries with them daily. It's the operating system under the culture, the invisible logic that makes everything else make sense. It is a word that every foreigner living in Japan or wanting to live in Japan should know and understand. Once you grasp its deep-seated systemic influence and view Japan from this perspective, the totality of the culture, customs, history, educational system, and economics become clear. Looking at life from this universal Japanese reality will even help you understand Japanese business practices better. But first, let me share with you a real-life experience that gives a clear picture of what I am talking about. I first arrived in Japan in July of 1977. In 1981, I bought my first car, a miniature Suzuki van that made shopping around town much easier and traveling around Japan much more convenient. I noticed something unusual the first time I stopped at a red light at night, and the car behind me and the cars on the other side of the road all turned off their headlights after stopping. Once we got the green to go, all of them turned their lights back on and proceeded through the intersection. I got a crazy feeling trying to figure out why this would be happening. I thought it kind of funny. I then came to the conclusion, this just must be another one of those many niceties you experience when living in Japan. It had to be an act of consideration for others, an important aspect found in Japanese society. The people opposite me on the other side of the road were considerate to the point of not blinding me with their headlights the few moments we were stopped. I drove away thinking this was a good idea, so I started turning my headlights off when stopping at intersections like everyone else. The most surprising thing was when I found out that this was not the reason why this happened. My Japanese wife informed me that I was wrong and misunderstood their intentions. The real reason this happened was that they wanted to extend the life of their headlights. I laughed. To me, this was absurd and nonsensical. I tried to find the rationale in extending the life of car headlights by turning them off for a few minutes. After all, they come with 10-year warranties and can last much longer than that. I have never heard of anyone having to replace a car headlight as long as they owned it, even for 20 years. Seriously, the car will probably be sold for junk before a headlight goes out. I couldn't see the point. Until I learned the word I will now reveal to you. The word is Yoyu. Yoyu is another one of those Japanese words that has no English equivalent. It is written with two Japanese characters. The first character, yo, means surplus or something left over. The second character, yu, means abundance or ease. Put them together and you get a word that describes having more than enough or some leeway, not just in money, but in time, energy, patience, social status, and many other aspects of life. If you could wrap the words abundance, capability, leeway, room, margin, and affordability all in one, you have the meaning of yoyu. The English equivalent meaning changes depending on the context in which the word is used. The Japanese are always trying to create and protect their yoyu because by nature they have never had any. So, as you can see, all of the drivers were trying to create or protect yoyu, or more leeway or margin by turning off their headlights. In this light, pun intended, we have to take into consideration that Japan is a small island nation the size of California with a population a third of the U.S. Unlike most Western countries, Japan has no oil, no natural resources to speak of, limited arable land, is plagued with frequent earthquakes and other natural disasters, and suffers from constant existential pressure. With these unchangeable conditions, the Japanese have always been faced with the no-win uphill battle to get to a point to feel they have enough and to live comfortably. The feeling of yoyu is the base ingredient in most Japanese concepts and unique cultural traits. Japan is a country plagued with limitations. Or is it? History shows the Japanese have developed ingenious ways of overcoming these limitations and the lack of yoyu. Yoyu doesn't just live in the dictionary, its creation shows up everywhere in Japanese life, often in places you wouldn't expect. Let's start with the lack of space. Walk into a traditional Japanese room, and you'll notice something a lot of Western design tends to avoid: emptiness. A bare wall, a single flower in a vase instead of 10. The Japanese even have a separate word for that kind of intentional emptiness. It's called ma. And the key thing to understand is it's not unfinished. It's left that way on purpose. The empty space isn't a mistake waiting to be filled. It is creating yoyu by design. Modern-day minimalism is the practice of the age-old concept of ma, brought about by the lack of yoyu. Now let's talk about the lack of money. A person with yoyu financially isn't necessarily rich. They're someone who spends less than they could on purpose, so that when life eventually asks for more, they actually have something left to give. Yoyu here isn't about the size of their bank account. It's about the gap between what you have and what you spend. The larger the gap, the more yoyu you create. The Japanese have known to be great savers. Then there's the lack of time. Anyone visiting any major city in Japan sees how everyone is always in a scrambled rush to get somewhere. Japanese trains are famous for running on time down to the second to protect everyone's yoyu. There have been public apologies from private railway companies for having one train be a couple seconds late for no reason. It is the same culture that institutionalized the centuries-old tea ceremony, a precise and patient, hour-long, slow-motion act of serving tea to a handful of people. A calm yoyu, or abundance of time, is created by doing one simple task: to experience a void in an otherwise busy schedule. Precision protects the schedule, and patience protects the pause. Even a person's character can be measured in how much yoyu he or she seems to have. If a Japanese refers to someone having yoyu, it means he or she doesn't panic easily. They don't snap under pressure. They have space inside themselves that doesn't run out, even when things get hard. This is not because nothing bothers them, but because they've emotionally created a sense of ease within themselves that most people can't. In each case I've described, the underlying logic remains consistent. When material abundance is unavailable, yoyu is manufactured through design, behavior, intention, and discipline. The Japanese incessant search for yoyu has led to a psyche that stresses the importance of precision, conservation, deliberation, and frugality that stretch the bounds of limitation. The Japanese are master magicians with little to no resources who create greatness out of nothing. I hope you have gotten something out of the time you've spent listening to me. If you have found this content useful, please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow. Since you've stayed with me to the end of this episode, I would like to give you something you may find interesting to read. In 2022, I wrote this memoir called Cultured Gaijin, a Japan memoir of Bushido beginnings. The memoir is about my first 4 years living in Japan and how it transformed my life. The first story of the book is about my climb of Mount Fuji the first day I arrived. I ended up sleeping on top of the mountain my first night in Japan, and my first morning waking up to view the Hinamaru, the rising sun of Japan. It is yours to download from the link in the description. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, Kiyotsukete, take care.